Ladies and gentlemen, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Now that we've got the Black Ops 7 worldwide reveal out there now, of course, as the internet does, the internet's been reacting, and it has largely been a loud negative reaction to Black Ops 7 so far. Obviously, with Battlefield 6 coming out this year as well, and with all the hype that that's gotten over the course of the past month or so with its worldwide reveal, and then the beta test, it's been a lot of Battlefield versus Call of Duty. I'm personally in the boat of I'm going to play both of them. I'm going to enjoy both of them, but that's not everybody, and that's fine, right? You can absolutely pick your one versus the other if that's your vibe. But with Black Ops 7, this was largely a campaign-based reveal. I'm not sure if everyone's taking that fully into account. The campaign looks absurd in some good ways and some bad ways. Like, it's definitely out there. It's a little bit wild. It doesn't necessarily scream, hey, this is Call of Duty, right? But that's just the campaign. Based on all the reports that we've seen from multiplayer so far, a little bit of zombies, a little tiny bit of Warzone, it's not necessarily as extreme in those areas. But there are still some things that we've learned specifically about multiplayer and a little bit of what goes into Warzone as well, that is raising a red flag for me. There are some real problems I have personally with Black Ops 7. There are some real concerns I have. I don't think they are really rare opinions, but I still want to get them out there because any chance I have to provide feedback in a positive way that can encourage some positive change, I want to do so. I want to make sure I use my platform as responsibly as I can, especially when it comes to the franchise that I want to see succeed, even if they sometimes seemingly make that difficult by doing some pretty crazy stuff like what they're doing with Black Ops 7 here. But first and foremost, for the most part, I'm really intrigued by the multiplayer stuff that we've learned so far. I just covered in a video yesterday all the main multiplayer details that have been shared from the people who made it out to Treyarch earlier this month to play the game early, and some of the blog stuff that they detailed. And it's a little bit more grounded than the campaign. I say a little bit. It's actually quite more grounded than the campaign in terms of the outlandishness. Is that a word? I'm going to roll with it. If it's not, you can yell at me down below if you want to. But with multiplayer, the biggest red flag for me, what irritates me the most, is because I do think the gameplay itself is probably going to be pretty good. It seems like they are taking a decent amount of feedback into the core gameplay. I think a lot of that's going to be overshadowed by the fact that people are going to have to be looking at Beavis and Butthead and Nicki Minaj and all these ridiculous operator skins running around on their brand new Black Ops 7 maps in Season 1, because carryover was confirmed. At launch, it's just going to be, the gameplay stuff like XP tokens and gobblegums, which I think that's fine. I think your tokens and your gobblegums and stuff like that should carry over at all times in all CODs, because you earn that through gameplay, especially in Warzone. What I don't think should carry over, though, is these ridiculous skins, the guns, everything like that. I feel like that waters down the game, especially when you've got back-to-back games like we saw with MW2 into MW3, like we're gonna see now with BO6 into BO7. The old game's guns, let's face it, they're not going to be meta. They're not going to be the ones that stand out. They're going to emphasize Black Ops 7's weaponry, because that's what's going to entice you to play more, to level up all the guns, to prestige them, to get them ready for Warzone. They're simply there to fill content, and I'm not really sure what that achieves a ton. Obviously, in Warzone, there's going to be that extended, carryover, because it's a multi-year project, and it makes sense there a little bit more, although it probably does need some resetting at some point, and there will be a hard reset probably with Modern Warfare 4. But in multiplayer, I get the whole thing of like buying the blueprints, buying the skins, spending your money on the battle pass, and getting that content and wanting to get the max value out of it for as long as possible. But also, before we had carryover introduced into Call of Duty, this was not something that was being yelled about at all times, saying, hey, why aren't my Call of Duty Ghosts unlocks available in my Jetpack Call of Duty? Why isn't my Black Ops 4 stuff available in my Modern Warfare game? Or even, why isn't my Modern Warfare 2019 stuff available in Modern Warfare 2, right? Like, that was never a problem before, and now they've made it this problem that has to be talked about here. And I assumed carryover was going to be a thing for Black Ops 7. I was holding out hope that it might not be, and at least it's with Season 1, so like the first day of Black Ops 7, you're not going to see Beavis and Butthead running around, but you will eventually, and I think that's kind of stupid. I wish and the simple fix here really is just having a toggle. If you don't want to see the ridiculous skins and all that outlandish stuff, turn on default skins, milsim skins, and you just have the enemies showing up as basic content. And if you want to see the flashy stuff and you don't care about that, that's fine too. You just leave that on, right? But I feel like it does diminish the new product some when all of the old game stuff is still there. And it's not even solely about the cosmetics, although that is a big talking point. Like I said, I just feel like it waters things down. It bloats the game a ton when you have all these weapons from the past game and then all the new ones as well. It's just more for the devs to have to figure out, because you already know some random Black Ops 6 gun is going to be crazy overpowered off an accidental tune in a patch note. It's going to happen. You could avoid that if you wanted to, though. So carry forward, I think, is going to be a real problem for a lot of people. There are certainly people out there who are going to be happy about that, and I'm happy that you're happy about that. It's just not for me, and I don't think it's it for a lot of people. I think there's a general realization that it does water things down. It does make the game feel a little bit odd and goofy at the same time too. But enough about me screaming about carry over here. There are some other red flags that I've got for Black Ops 7. The futuristic stuff, Call of Duty's really gambling here a little bit. They're kind of risking it going back to the future because, no pun intended there. They're kind of risking it because we've had these futuristic CODs before. BO3, Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare, Black Ops 4 a little bit futuristic there. They've not been the most successful Call of Duties, especially from a community sentiment point. Like, I thought Advanced Warfare was awesome. It's by far my favorite jetpack COD. Black Ops 3 is regarded pretty highly because it had an insane content output, especially in year 2 when Infinite Warfare was flopping. But for the most part, there is that community that loves jetpack CODs and futuristic CODs. But those also, by comparison, do not seemingly do as well and are not as positively received as boots on the ground, more modern stuff. And they're treading back into this futuristic territory here. Granted, it seems to be a lot heavier in the campaign, and it's not going to be as heavy in multiplayer. There will still be probably the crazy skins and the wall boosts or the wall jumps, whatever you want to call them. So the movement's going to be a little bit more advanced, but it's not crazy. You're flying around futuristic. But people are going to see the campaign, as they already have, and assume that is how the entire game is. It's crazy. There's giants walking around. You are boost jumping all over the place. It's just absurd. It's like you're fighting in space. And even if that's not necessarily the case in multiplayer, they've now given off the perception that that is what the Black Ops 7 gameplay loop is like off their initial reveal here. And when they go into that futuristic stuff, that is a hard no for a lot of players outright, especially when your biggest competition this year is going pretty heavy into the realistic, like gritty military stuff with Battlefield 6. If you were pitting Battlefield 6 and Modern Warfare 4 together, I think you'd have a crazy competition here. This is going to be like two polar opposite titles going head to head here with Black Ops 7 and Battlefield 6. And each game is still going to hold their respective community. The Battlefield fans will go to Battlefield. The COD fans will go to COD. But that overlapping community is going to have an option of picking, hey, crazy futuristic arcade game or more realistic military style game. And a lot of COD's largest successes as of late have been those more realistic military style games. So the futuristic stuff, it limits, I think, the appeal to a lot of players, a lot of their more casual audience, even that you won't see screaming on YouTube comments or on Twitter or wherever else in Twitch chats. So that's concerning, at least a little bit to me, but that's also a really subjective thing. What I think is less subjective is how much going into the future opens up the opportunity for Call of Duty to take itself even less seriously than it already does. This sort of relates back to the carry forward content and the ridiculousness of some of the things that we've seen in Black Ops 6, which isn't even a futuristic title, and they're going insane with some of the cosmetics and some of the skins. The straying away from the realism, or at least grounded in military stuff, I feel like gets exaggerated even more and exemplified, I think that's the better word, even more in a futuristic COD, because there's not necessarily the roots that you can take in inspiration from. Whereas, you know, a modern COD, you can look at what the military's doing these days and take stuff from that. When you're fighting in 2035, it's in the future, near future, but still the future, you can sort of make stuff up and say, oh, this would be quote unquote realistic in 2035, and you get more of these outlandish skins, and it's just not what's going over well for COD right now. The vocal majority, at least, which is not always the player-based majority, never is the player-based majority, but the sentiment around COD and the ridiculousness of some of the things that are put into the game cosmetic-wise, I feel like could get even louder this year with Black Ops 7. We're gonna have to see the route that they take it, but it is something I'm definitely concerned about. The beta time is also a little concerning to me. We got it fully announced now. October 2nd is going to be the early access. October 5th is the open beta. First up, they are going right up against the clock to Battlefield 6. And Battlefield 6 is going to be doing a ton of marketing that week, just a week before their game launches on October 10th. So you're going to have this competition fully out there, front page of everything, because Battlefield will be announcing all of its launch stuff and revealing trailers and all sorts of crazy stuff. And you're going to have hands-on with Black Ops 7 at the same time. So you'll be able to do the direct compare and contrast. And then right as the Black Ops 7 beta ends, we're jumping into Battlefield 6. Again, direct compare and contrast to gameplay there. So that in and of itself is not necessarily favoring Call of Duty. They're the underdog, it seems like, in this fight. From a sentiment standpoint, Call of Duty is probably still going to sell more. Like, even the best Battlefields don't always sell up there with the worst Call of Duties. So it would take a massive shift to see a true change there. It's not impossible. Maybe it's just a little bit more improbable, but they're setting themselves up to look maybe not so great if the beta has a controversial opinion about it and it's a mixed reception, and then Battlefield 6 drops 2 days later and is getting a ton of hype again, right? So that is rough, but also just the time frame. Late October seems like it's a lot later given the launch date of this in November 14th. They're pushing things further back, but there's not leaving much time to react to beta feedback. So maybe there's some things in the beta that go over really poorly and players are like, yeah, this sucks. Are they going to have the appropriate time to make adjustments for launch so that this thing that sucks doesn't end up being there at launch and ruining hype there as well? Call of Duty always kind of does this, where they don't set themselves up with a ton of time to react for whatever reason. A little bit bummed that the beta is so far out. Maybe, you know, mid to late September, I think would have been a better time frame for that for a multitude of reasons here. But nonetheless, that is also, again, something that raises some concern to me. So I do have some things for Black Ops 7 that, while I'm definitely intrigued by several elements of it, particularly the multiplayer, then obviously Warzone as well, there's a lot of things here too that are like, yeah, I don't know about that. Like, that could be really bad if it ends up playing out in certain ways here. So time's gonna tell, of course. I'm sure we're gonna have plenty of more dramatic things to cover when it comes to Black Ops 7, because it seems like that's gonna be what this game is for a long time, is a very loud crowd of people heavily against the game and not enjoying the game, and a very loud crowd of people who are like, this is fantastic. More so, I think, than what we've seen in years past, because this Call of Duty seems to be so much further out there than what we've had in recent years. That said, it's gonna wrap up me rambling and ranting today. If you stuck around the entire time, I truly do appreciate it. If you guys enjoyed the video, or you simply just want to help the channel grow, a like rating is always really appreciated. If you're new to the channel, you haven't subscribed yet, we should change that. I got you covered with all things going on in Call of Duty, and if you're on the other side of the argument, Battlefield as well. So much content coming in the next few weeks and months as we approach launch season for each of these titles, so feel free to hit that subscribe button. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.